Let's set a space right now that the words come out of me with ease and grace, and that I get myself out of the way, and that within you that you open a channel that you can completely receive what you need to receive. This is about attracting your soulmate, and it's something that I'm pretty passionate about. That really the thing that I've always wanted in my life is to completely love and to be loved. And I can see how in the past relationships that my partners didn't get all of me. And when I look at that with compassion and tenderness, now I can start to see why I didn't get the result of a relationship that somewhere inside of me that I was hoping for. That's a hard thing to look at. That why would you ever block something like that? Why would you ever resist being loved? And that's the that's the question that comes up with a lot of people that I work with, and myself included. Why would you block that? Why would you put anything in the way of being loved? But it's not you that wants to block it. It's your ideas, your mind's beliefs and thoughts about who you are and what you deserve and what you're worthy of, and all that crap that gets in the way of that. So the first thing that I do with people is find out what's in the way of that, or what kind of stories are being told. I'll share with you a little bit of an Attract Your Soulmate session that I had yesterday. And of course, it was different than what she was expecting, but that's how it goes. But we talked about, who she was or who she is and how she's been in the world. And she's really focused on a career, which is the first kind of the first signal. It's not a bad thing in of itself, but a lot of times people can get unbalanced in their pursuit of the career, and which is what happened with her. She was pursuing a career and doing very well. She's a very friendly, nice, sweet, intelligent person, and she was tall. And she spent a lot of time playing basketball and being involved in sports. And she said, I spent a lot of time in sports and spent a lot of time in my career. And then she starts, it's funny thing that happens when you start speaking about this for yourself. The words come out, and you can see the kind of look on your face when you realize what the problem is. So in of itself, it wasn't that her career was the focus or her sports was the focus. It was just things behind that. So we kind of dug a little deeper in that. She was intimidating to the wrong men. What I mean by that is the right man would look at her and go, yeah, I am so into who you are, and you're powerful. Awesome. Let's make you more powerful. You're beautiful. That's great. All the right man would embrace every part of her, but the wrong man would look at these other women as maybe more able to be manipulated or controlled, or maybe there were trophies or whatever these guys were thinking. She was not that. She was not one that really wanted to be controlled. So that was part of it, that just the right guy, the right combination wasn't available to her. And then we looked at that. Why isn't that available to you? And part of that was she hadn't really set her desires, her needs for herself. And she wanted love. It was so beautiful to hear that. She wanted to be loved, and she wanted to share a life with somebody, and to come home and share, what happened in the day and all those kind of things. But she hadn't narrowed down what she was looking for without being too limiting. So we dug a little deeper, and we talked about, I think I mentioned something about, when a lot of women that I work with are unbalanced in their feminine and masculine energies, they lean more into their masculine energy, which makes them feel safe for a while, but at the detriment or at the sacrifice of their feminine energy. And that kind of dynamic, it can kind of push the guy away. And if he's not really comfortable in himself, it can push him away. And we sort of looked into that, and she started, like, right then and there, she uncovered what the thing was. When she was a little girl, her mother was mostly stay at home, and her mother really loved to dress up, and she had this style about her, and she had this kind of sexy look about her that she could put on with her makeup and her hair and all those things. It was really beautiful, but she never went anywhere. And her feeling was in that childhood that her mom was always cautioning her to be careful. You don't want to go out there alone, and people are not nice and that kind of thing. So it's kind of interesting that she would get dressed up but then stay home because she had these fears about it, which she projected onto her child. So what does that child do? She starts to lean more into her masculine energy, feel safer to hang out with boys, and she became a tomboy. So she didn't really have, you could see it right there. She was really frustrated and sad that she didn't get the guidance on how to, in a healthy way, embrace and exhibit this feminine energy without setting herself up for something that was not healthy. So right then and there, she kind of looked at, okay, wow, it really is something that I've just hadn't been fully engaged in. I hadn't been very clear on, and I've been kind of out of balance. So how could I attract the right relationship? And she was honest, and she said, the relationships that I've been having are like 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, but nothing much more than that, which kind of makes sense if she's fully engaged in her career and her sports and that kind of thing, that there's not that balance there. So it was very enlightening and empowering for her to go, okay, well, if I hadn't really supported having a loving relationship in the past by my own actions and my own ideas of things, what would happen if I shifted that? So that's kind of the second step, is finding out what it is that or the person is looking for, and especially in what you're wanting to feel, not the color of the skin or the weight or the height or any of that stuff. It's really about what you're looking to feel, and seeing if there's any natural resistance due to conditioning or childhood or belief systems that would stand in the way of that. So one thing would be, I really want to be loved completely for everything that I am and who I am, and to be heard. And so the question becomes, do you love yourself in that way? Do you hear yourself? When your intuition speaks, do you hear that? Or have you been discounting that? So it's that kind of thing where, you can't find it on the outside, and then are you giving it to yourself on the inside? And that's a huge thing to realize, first of all, that everything is ours to have. I know that sounds really crazy, but everything is ours to have, because there is really no having of it. We are all of it. And I'm speaking kind of in a place of energy and consciousness. So if we realize that I have everything that I need to have when I need to have it, and I am of the same consciousness of that which I want to have. So my job is to raise my frequency to match that, whatever it is that I feel that I want and need. But if there's a feeling inside of me that I'm not worthy of having that love, but due to shame or guilt or whatever the thing is, there's this disconnect there. So it really does help to kind of go into a little discovery with yourself to find out, okay, I want this kind of relationship. And some people call this a soulmate relationship, or twin flame, or whatever, title you want to put on that. But also being clear on, if you want a soulmate relationship, realize that you may already have a soulmate in your life. Like one of my soulmates is Jonathan, who's on the call. Hi, Jonathan. Jonathan is a soulmate friend. We've got this great connection together, and although we don't spend every day together, I feel a really strong connection with him. Another guy in my life is Anthony Mtwaso Johnson. I met him in Sedona at a crystal shop, and all of a sudden, boom, we have this love for each other. He's a Black man, I'm a white guy, but there's this commonality between us about where we lived, and there's all these differences, but it's the commonality. And we have this relationship that every time that we're together, there's this great love for each other. So you might already have a soulmate, but I know that a lot of people are looking for the intimate soulmate. So we all need to be specific on what kind of soulmate that we're looking for. If it's the intimate soulmate, then there is some really looking at what it is that we need in the form of feelings, what we didn't receive in our childhood that we would like to cultivate more of, realizing that we might have some resistance inside of us. All those things are just looked at, not over years, not over long-term analysis. It really is just taking, I mean, we did an hour and a half, just looking at yourself, looking at your tendencies and your belief systems, and seeing how which ones played into or supported you having a soulmate relationship and which ones were in resistance to that. So once we kind of discovered, how she talked about herself and what her life has been, and how she was brought up with certain belief systems about fear, about being out in the world as a sexy woman and that kind of thing, she got to decide. She got to decide how she wanted to show up, how she wanted to be a powerful athlete and be sexy and have a balanced life in her career and be successful there, and realizing that she can have it all as long as there's balance and all that. But she was realizing that all the sports and the career and this thing were nothing compared to being loved and to love in a genuine, authentic way. So that all of a sudden became a priority. But every once in a while, she'd get a little story would come up, and she'd say, "Oh, I was just so frustrated. Why hasn't this happened for me?" And then she would kick in again. Well, of course it didn't happen for me, because what I'm looking for is at a high frequency. I've had the low frequency relationships before, but what I'm looking for is up here. So then the question becomes, have you been supporting that frequency that which you're looking for to, have in your life? So then the question becomes, if you're wanting someone that is a very loving, conscious, honest, authentic person, how are you doing there? Or are you believing that someone's going to kind of pull you up to there, or that it's going to somehow work? So really what we need to do is what actually Valerie and I did over many years, is keep on adjusting ourselves and recalibrating and looking at the stuff that we had as belief systems. And, we kind of laugh at, man, we did not, what a good thing we didn't meet each other 20 years ago, because we would have fucked that up. But we just kind of laugh at it. Well, we had some things that we needed to work through. And I bless all the relationships, especially the latest ones, that I had an amazing relationship of love and finding myself and working with each other. And it's in those relationships, all of them, all the ones that I've had, that have brought me to the place of, actually, the key is loving myself. And I know this has been talked over and over and over, but it really is not about loving yourself and then having thoughts and then having to deal with those thoughts, and then loving yourself and finding some ways to overcome those things. For me, it was really about not listening to those thoughts at all, and realizing that those thoughts weren't actually me. They were an aspect of me, but I didn't need to engage in them and fight against them and try and do better. That was one step. But I realized that in the moment, there were thoughts about myself and my relationship. And I had to make a decision, no matter what, that I was going to love myself so completely. And then here's a person in front of me that was kind of the vehicle for that. So it really just came down to, how much am I willing to love myself? And I know the story is that I try to, but I have these thoughts about, stop engaging in the fight with the thoughts that are detrimental to you. You have this ability to completely stop and be in awareness of love, and allow those thoughts just to dissipate on their own. You are that powerful. So that was a big thing that we talked about, is really kind of engaging in that. And, some amount of anger also kind of applies here, that I need to use a little bit of anger towards my own mind so that I could reassert myself again. So that played a part in it. The last part that is really helps in attracting your soulmate and getting onto that, really, it is a frequency of consciousness, or you could say reality, is to do some sort of a meditation or a journey that you can feel what that feels like. So here's what I did with her. She was sitting on the couch at my office, and I just had her get really present with herself and who she is right now, and acknowledge this love that her soul has for her right now, where she is in her journey. And as she got really present, then I moved into, now imagine that there's another version of you that already exists, and it knows what you've been going through, and it has such deep compassion and love for you. It's just in a different place now. It's just diving off a higher diving board right now. So there's no judgment about where you're at and how long it's taking. It knows that it already exists. And then I had to go into what it feels like to be that person, to be in that version of herself, and how that version of herself would feel about the world and feel about herself. And when you allow yourself to speak those words out, it becomes this truth, and you start to really get into the feeling of it. So there wasn't a talk about the details of it, but only the feeling. And that's something that we can really engage in. And then the next thing I had to do is that now you're beloved. You have a beloved in your life that is the guy that you're looking for. And what does he feel like? Not what he looks like, but what does he feel like? And how does he look at you? And it was really amazing for her to say, oh, he just looks at me and edifies me and builds me up and feels so good about me and engages with me, and he adores me. And how do you feel about him? Oh, I just think I talk about him all the time. I adore him. And you could see that she wasn't really faking this. It wasn't something that she was so far away from her. She really felt like this is a natural thing. It's just that she hadn't spent time on it. She hadn't spent time to engage in the visualization or the imagining that which already exists. And we hear this all the time too, right? That those things that you imagine instantly exist. So if you can imagine it in your mind, it must exist. So we kind of use sort of that thing there. So first part is discovery about what your life has been and what the natural tendencies are, what your kind of subconscious and conscious beliefs and thoughts and words that come out of your mouth. Here's another one that I'll use myself as an example that could get in the way of something like that. For a long time, part of my autobiography of myself, or my story about myself, was that I'm a minimalist. And it felt pretty good. I'm a minimalist. I don't need much. And I lived in a little tiny home for 3 years on this property. And I have this story that goes along with that. And it kind of made me feel good that I didn't need much to be happy. And on the one end of it, it really served me. And it was a really good story to have. And it was a really good place to be. It allowed me to let go of things really easy, and allowed me to go on the journeys that I did, a 2,000-mile bicycle ride and a 3,000-mile motorcycle ride, and eventually be here. But after a while, I started to question, like as I do, I kind of questioned the truth of that anymore. And I asked myself, did that idea of being a minimalist, did that ferment? Did it sour? So there's a point there where you can be frustrated with yourself and start to hate yourself. But that moment I said, wow, that was really great. That was awesome that I was a minimalist. I love that. And now I'm going to let in abundance because I felt like too much of that minimalist attitude was kind of blocking in some way the abundance in my life. So I had to really look at that. And the other one was being a rebel. I would say I'm a rebel. When I was in the Navy, there was the right way, the wrong way, the Navy way. Then there's Daniel's way. It was a funny story, and I told the story probably thousands of times. And yeah, as me as a rebel, I would take on these things and be real, just, I'm going to go climb this mountain. I'm going to screw everybody else and go on this trip. It was fun. It was fun to be a rebel and to kind of buck society's norms and that kind of stuff. And it made me it was the passion inside of me that is part of me. I mean, it's probably all related to the stars and planets that were aligned when I was born. So it is a part of me. And then I questioned that one. What about if that rebel nature has blocked some things that wanted to come into my life, but I've rebelled against things? And what if that has fermented or soured? So what if I just really embraced all of life, everything that is the societal norms and all that stuff? So that there's no resistance to things like that. And so that's where I am now. So that's the question that I'm putting to her is there any ideas of yourself or stories of yourself that might get in the way of that? And then she did. She has some things about, I just like hanging out with boys, or I like doing boy things. I like sports, and I'm not really good at being feminine. And so we worked on that. So any of the things that come out of your mouth about these beliefs that you have about yourself, it could be that some of those, if not all of them, may be standing in the way of you either meeting that one person that is so perfect for now in your relationship, I would say, that will cause you to do the right work, that will cause you to look at the right things so that your love will deepen. So what I'm saying here is that it may not be the relationship that everything is, quote, perfect, that you guys never get upset with each other, that you never argue, that you never get triggered. And I've heard of relationships like that. But there's an amount of growth that happens when we get triggered, when we're caused to look at our stuff, when we're caused to look at our own shadows. So a soulmate might be, or so intimate soulmate might be the person that you just adore, and they adore you, and you just fit together, and you have so much fun together, and there's stuff that you love doing alone, but you love doing it with this person too. And sometimes they trigger you. And it causes you to become a better person. It causes you to clear away anything that would cause resentment in your life and in your relationship. So for me, a soulmate can show up in so many different ways, but it's that relationship or intimate soulmate that causes me, in the most loving, honoring, gentle, tender way, to look at my shit, and causing me to be more in love with myself and more in love with this other person. So that's all I have for this short time. If you want more, Valerie and I are doing an Attract Your Soulmate workshop on February 25th, and feel free to engage in that. I think it's $44 online and $88 in person. And we're going for a few hours. So that'll be in Sedona at our studio at 1785 Highway 89A, number 1C in West Sedona. Otherwise, check us out online, and I'm sure you get a lot from it. Thank you very much. I love you. Bless you. See you next time.